Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Eye of the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lore and Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. What happened? Like, what did I just play? Like, Capcom out of nowhere decides, okay, we're going to drop a Resident Evil 4 remake demo. You can play this right now on everything that isn't a Nintendo console. So, being curious, I went ahead, downloaded the thing, got it running, booted it up, played this game, and holy shit, was it terrible. Reprehensible. The first and foremost, I think this really needs to be said before we really, dive deep into everything this game does wrong. But first and foremost, and I think the most important thing, something that we should not forget in regards to this kind of thing, especially as we go into Resident Evil 5 remake, which I'm sure is inevitable. Resident Evil 4 did not need to be remade. Looking at these up-resed visuals, looking at these modern textures, looking at this the new design decisions, the game honestly looks worse on newer hardware than it does originally. The new up-res graphics made it look worse, right? It doesn't have the stylized visuals, it doesn't have the animation, it doesn't have the fluidity of motion, it doesn't feel natural in a way. We are at that point where games 20 years ago can look better than games being made today. If I wanted anything from Resident Evil 4 Remake, I wanted the same exact game with, more beautiful, realistic textures and maybe some additional content. My idea for Resident Evil 4 Remake was always let's give Ashley a full campaign. Let's give Lewis a full campaign. Let's give Ada a full campaign, a full canon campaign. Separate Ways is not campaign. It is not canon. You can do a lot of things with these characters that are in the game, right? There is additional content you could do with the original idea without changing much. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe is a really good example of that. That game added a lot of content without really changing the way the game plays at all. The core experience, it runs better, it looks better, but at the end of the day, it's the same game, just with additional content. And that's exactly what I wanted from Resident Evil 4 Remake. But instead, what we got is modern Resident Evil 4. We got, race-swapped Hunnigan. We got, Leon speaking Spanish. We have, just cringe dialogue moments. We have Leon, just poor storytelling in general. More cutscenes than gameplay. It really dawned on me when I was playing this demo how much it means to me, booting up Resident Evil 4, every playthrough, going in that house, and then confronting that guy and having your first confrontation. Because in that game, in the original, what happens is that the cutscene plays and then it cuts to the first ever gameplay section, and you get to fire your first shots, right? You get to fight this guy and beat him. You get a taste of what's to come. In this game, it's just relegated to a cutscene. Leon realizes his cop buddy has been abducted somehow. I don't know how they got separated. And then he gets attacked, and then you beat the guy in a cutscene, and then you go in the basement, and it just the pacing is all off. It doesn't make any sense. You really start to appreciate what the original did. Not only from a gameplay perspective, but from a general story presentation. I really found myself thinking, playing this, that wow, this is more than just a bad remake. This remake just fundamentally does not understand what made the original compelling. Not only from a gameplay perspective, but from a storytelling perspective too. It understood that it was a game that was designed to be fun, right? It really embraced the fact that it was a Nintendo exclusive and put used that superior technology to its advantage to create a stellar gameplay experience. But with this remake, not being a Nintendo exclusive, it's more cutscene focused. It's more focused on trying to impress you with Leon being ooh, I'm so apprehensive about the way I hate the way my life turned out. Ooh, I'm still traumatized from Raccoon City for some reason. I don't like this remake continuity. It just feels so unnatural to me. More people need to acknowledge that these remakes clearly are in their own continuity entirely. They can't be they don't correlate with the originals at all. And I think it's a lot more obvious with 4 than it is with 2. I think a lot of people, especially younger players, don't really know a whole lot about 2, about all the intricacies about like, which route is canon and like what actually happened in the plot of 2 and things like that. Resident Evil like has always been like kind of retcon heavy. That's been the case since like the second game, but like it's gotten really bad with these remakes. So much so that like playing this remake, I really have no desire to actually play the full game. Playing the demo for Resident Evil 4 Remake, there was nothing about it that made me think that like, wow, I had to go out and buy this. Like the the enemies, the ganados, they speak full proper Spanish this time, but who cares? Like I miss the fake the fake Spanish from the original. Like it just feels like whatever technical improvements the game might have had over the years, it just comes all together to create an objectively inferior product. There is nothing coming from this demo that makes me think that like I should go out and buy the full game. I thought Resident Evil 2 remake was pretty solid for what it was. The people who said it was like the best remake ever are full of crap. But I liked the first part of Resident Evil 2 remake. Well, I liked the police station segment. It was not bad at all. So I was really hoping for the same level of quality from Resident Evil 4 remake. I really was thinking that like maybe they could do something with this, but no, they remade a game fundamentally that did not need to be remade. They focused on all the stuff they absolutely should not have focused on. They changed things that didn't need to be changed. They did this, they did that. They just need they it feels like hopefully this is going to be like the last time Resident Evil is relevant. Like 7 and 8 I think were like pretty unpopular. Spin-offs aren't as popular as they used to be, and like I think the series has kind of kept itself alive through these remakes over the past couple of years. Like, it's the only time I ever see anybody excited about Resident Evil is whenever they're remaking an old game. And in this case, like, 2 wasn't good to begin with, not that great. And then 3 was a disaster, and 4 does not need to be does not need to exist, because I think like they could have easily just spent their time making 3 remake, took their time like remaking that game instead of just botching it like they did with with what they did put out, right? Then they could have made Code Veronica, and then like maybe 25 years after the original RE4's remake, they could have put out like a stellar remake, like really put time into it and really making this, bringing a proper conclusion to this arc of the Resident Evil series. Like, remaking these games might have helped, like, create an actual overarching narrative that wasn't full of retcons and plot holes. You know what I mean? Like, they could have legit done something with that idea, right? Like, really putting, really brought everything together in preparation for making the new Resident Evil games, right? But no, instead they just decided to milk it. They threw out 3 remake in the state it was in, and now they're throwing out 4 remake. And YouTubers and shills are like excited for this, but these are the same people who were like trying to tell you that Devil May Cry 5 is one of the best games ever made, right? These are the same people like trying to tell you that Multiversus is great, or that like Hogwarts Legacy is a 10 out of 10. Like, it's just Elden Ring is what is the best selling game ever made. Like, these people can't be trusted in any way, shape, or form. And with that being said, it feels like to me that this should hopefully lead into people being more skeptical of remakes. I don't think a remake of Resident Evil 5 would be nearly as successful as this. Like, the main reason people are excited for this is the same reason they were excited for Final Fantasy 7R. It's like, it's the brand name, right? Like, oh man, these third-party developers have finally gotten away from those evil Nintendos. From that evil corporation, Nintendo Corporation. So now they can make the game they always wanted to make, and the game they wanted to make was garbage. Like like 7R was terrible, but these people like really hyped that up, and now we're seeing the process repeat itself with Resident Evil 4 remake, and now. Now that I've actually played the game, I have no reservations at all, saying that like, yeah, there's 100%, there is no chance, absolutely none, that I will pick this up. No interest at all. It just plays complete garbage. And with that being said, with that, will game journalists and YouTubers try and promote this as like the next big thing? I think they might, because this summer is going to be interesting because we have a lot of big high profile titles coming out for them this summer. You have, like, of course, like Final Fantasy 16 and Resident Evil 4 remake, and I think some other things. So this is probably going to be like the best year for PS5 ever before like the Switch starts stomping it again next year. It's interesting to see this happen, and the PS5's glory days. It reminds me a lot of like when the PS4 peaked in 2015 with like Arkham Knight and Bloodborne and Witcher 3 and stuff like that. Like, people thought that the PS4 was going to dominate from that point forward, but uh, it just never happened. They tried promoting stuff like Yakuza 0 and Nier Automata, but at the end of the day, like, the Switch Atlas came out, and the Switch just dominated everything. It has a lot of that same energy. We're even seeing like Sony fabricate their sales numbers in Japan in order to like try and pretend that that their platform has an audience. So I'm curious if 4 remake. I'm sure 4 remake will sell well because of the brand, but that's it. Like, after 4 remake comes out, there shouldn't be any further remakes. Like, they'll try to remake 5, but what you have to understand about 5 is that like it sold well and among its audience, but like it doesn't have the same cult appeal that 4 has, right? Like, 5 is like generic and basic as all out, but like eventually they're gonna run out of games to remake. Like, even if they like remake 5, like what are they gonna do? Like, remake 6? Like, what are they gonna add to 6? 6 is basically like, that's basically what RE4 remake is. It's just 4 converted into the RE6 engine. Like, it's the same kind of problem, right? Right? Like, it's just there will be no there will eventually be diminishing returns to this kind of stuff. There's a reason why they rushed through Resident Evil 3 remake so much, because they knew it wouldn't do as well as 4. Like, this is, I think, their last hurrah, perhaps ever, for this franchise. Street Fighter 6 is looking like a disaster. Like, I'm curious to see like what Capcom ends up, what situation they end up in going forward. It feels as if they are in a very, very poor position indeed.